Hey guys, welcome. I stumbled on this video from Jubilee and I thought that I will make a reaction to it because let's go.
Step forward if you agree. Slavery affected my family.
Yeah, I mean, that's just evident in my last name, King. I mean, that's the brand of the slave owner that put that name on my family all those years ago, and I'm still wearing it in those ways, along with the compounded, economic disparity, social disparity, mental trauma, all of that. I mean, it's tethered forever.
So to go back to slavery and talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, it has never stopped. So there is no post. What my great-grandparents were teaching my grandparents, who taught my mother, who taught me, came from what they learned through slavery. So there's a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity.
Ooh, he just said technically there is no room to talk about PTSD and slavery because there's not even the post. And I can understand it because of the system that has been put in place, like some laws that was in place or that was agreed upon during slavery are still active nowadays. So the disparity technically has never shifted, like the changes were never actually there was really, the change was not done through the root, from the root basically. So like everything is on the surface of it, so I can understand and agree to what he's saying.
A fear of society, a fear of law enforcement. So slavery has made a major impact where the low self-esteem is consistently reoccurring. I think for me, growing up in Los Angeles, California in the early 1960s, there was a stereotype that I didn't want to be black, I didn't want to be African because we come from Africa or we're slaves. So I want to be a Chinese boy, I want to be Bruce Lee. So growing up like that, I didn't like myself and who I was. I didn't like the color of my skin or the way that I spoke. So I emulated other people. I wanted to be something that I was not.
It's very saddening when you can literally only go back.
He just actually resumed the problem of representation. And growing up in Africa, you can also imagine like there's a lot of representation or people that was misrepresented, and also there was also a lack of representation of what people from our country could do, what our history heroes. Oftentimes in our history book, they're portrayed as Makiza, which is like rebel. They're not considered heroes. So I can get that. And there's also something that is very prominent in Africa that I've observed growing up, and is the concept of bleaching. That is also another result of what colonialism and slavery brought.
A couple generations, and then it's like the documents just don't exist. There's no record. It's like, my family has completely been erased. In that same point too, in the time that we've been here, we've created an incredible culture, and we have so many things to be proud of. And I always reframe the narrative myself, and I speak of my ancestors that were enslaved as, doctors and healers, and it's like, we were taken because we were talented, because we had skills to offer. We built this country, so.
And still building.
And still building, and that's something to take pride in, so.
Can the disagreeer step forward?
Oh, I'm ready to see what this disagreeer was thinking.
Slavery didn't affect my family, but we did suffer a different type of slavery back home. Like we went to colonization. Like I am Bamileke, there was a massacre of Bamileke. You guys can look it up. They killed like more than 300,000 of my people because we didn't want to assimilate to the French culture. But it's still nothing compared to what you guys' ancestors been through,
I wouldn't want to minimize.
Oh, that brings me back home. Yeah, the concept of the Bamileke genocide is often portrayed in European or external culture as like a war or something. It wasn't a war, it was a genocide. It was a blatant genocide of 400,000 people and more, so but as far as of colonization and slavery, I think that after the whole exchange, because I think even during the colonization, the slavery was still happening. There are some people that were still being sold. So I would say in terms of affecting the families, I think that we as African, we have like, because a lot of people were dispersed, we don't have like, a lot of us, at least for me, I would say at least for me, I can't hardly retrace to like maybe 5 generations, which is what I mean, which is something that I would try to do. But thus far, I didn't grow up with that, like the knowledge of that older generation that could have suffered these things. So I think that's the same thing for the guy over here, and I think that's why he's saying that it didn't affect their families. Or I mean, I would see that's also why some African would think that slavery didn't per se affect their family, because they can't really pinpoint or retrace those. But when you take the example of this dude that was earlier, when you talk about the names, we as African, we often have a mixture of our traditional names and some type of European names. Whether it is like a French name or an English name, we do. So somewhere we got affected.
That pain, though. What you just said hurt me. That 300,000 people were killed because they would not conform to the colonization of the French people. So that is just as painful and hurtful as the trauma that we suffered here in America.
I can't share the same experience that you have went through and your family. Even though we also had our own type of slavery, we had apartheid at the time, you know, where the Dutch people took over and they wanted to just have South Africa, Namibia, and I think other countries where we could only just speak Dutch. It's somehow still happening even now. There's like a place in South Africa where it's called Orania, you know, and it's just Dutch people there. No black person is even allowed there. So we still somehow feel that oppression even now, but it's nothing compared to what your ancestral history, you know, has gone through. I'm somehow happy that you guys have forgiven it, even though you haven't forgotten it. Have you forgiven it?
Whoa, I think this is something. It's actually remarkable what she's saying, like the forgiving thing. And she's South African, so I think that the South African history and the African American history are somewhat the same, because it's the issue of some European who come into someone's land, they start pushing them away and then claiming the place and imposing their own will on those people. So they're somewhat the same. And even when you talk about apartheid, it's a system where I think apartheid could be compared to what here, the segregation. Yeah, because it's just like black people were not allowed to go in a certain area that are just reserved for white people. I mean, technically, has it stopped? I don't think he has stopped in South Africa. I don't think he has stopped in America. So we're still in the same thing, in the same concept. So.
Giving it like a face like.
But me personally, no, I haven't. But I want to work through the change. But no, I have not forgiven, because it's a system that's still going on. And from what I'm hearing from you guys, there's a system that's still going on in Africa as well, and it's a war on us.
Racism is the main cause of poverty among black people in America.
Racism is a very big issue that, talking about it, I'm really trying to be careful to not like say anything that will be insensitive. If opportunity is right here, they will give it to people of other race than African American and Africans too. So if there's a job that maybe have math requirement, I feel like they'll pick an Asian person, or they believe, oh, African Americans will not dress appropriate, so they will pick another person. They will always like pick people that are not black over people that are black.
And I also think, I think the crucial missing point when we talk about economic disparity, time is the most valuable currency. And if you have a stock that's like the American dream is the stock, and during all that time, all that asset, the American dream was appreciating, and you're not allowed to take out business loans, you're not allowed to read, you're not allowed to write, you have to first fight to become 3/5 of a citizen, then you got Jim Crow, and then you got everything else. It's like you're now having to buy in at a price so high because the time is irreparable. You can't get that back. One black person today cannot, in one lifetime, achieve what generations of white families were able to do simply because they didn't have to compete with us to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you totally.
Yeah, I was thinking, just like you said, from a historical standpoint, we start with slavery, then that's centuries, generations of stolen labor, like you said. Then we get into Jim Crow, which is just an extension of that. Then we have redlining, we have mass incarceration, we have events like the
I think that racism. I think we all agree. We all agree that racism is an issue going on. However, I think that the overexposition of racism as the main cause of poverty among Black people has to somewhat stop. We live in a system where if you think that, I mean, technically you are what you think. That is something that I live by. You are what you think. And putting yourself in a position where, there's racism, where you tell yourself there's racism, you may hold yourself like it can turn out to be an excuse. You can make it an excuse. And again, please don't quote me wrong. I'm not saying that racism is not there. I'm not saying that it's not an issue. I'm saying that there's a possibility for anyone or for someone to get out of the environment that he is in to seek better. And in this day and age where you have access to internet and like information is everywhere, you need to actually sit down and look at the mirror. And yes, while racism exists, is an issue, learn how to navigate through it. I would say it like that. But while it's an issue, it's not the main one. Ignorance is, I would say.
Bombing of Tulsa and Rosewood in Florida and all these different examples of our wealth being decimated. And I don't say that to come from a defeatist or a victim mindset, but I think if we just have an honest conversation about history and what we've gone through when we've been here, racism is definitely a big part of that. And there are a lot of successful Black Americans, a lot of millionaires, a lot of business owners, but they're exceptions for sure for a reason. And there's a big difference between income and wealth. I would like to challenge.
I don't think Black billionaire or Black millionaire are exceptions. There are Black people out there who have a lot of money. They're just not mainstreamed. They're not just portrayed in the main media, because what the media shows, when you open the news, you see, robbery, someone got shot, and it's usually a Black person and stuff like that. So they have to show that to keep that division in place. You see what I'm saying? They have to make that to keep that division in place. You have to think that you have to think that way. You have to think that all people are against you for the system to keep functioning the way it does. I think there's a lot of Black billionaires out there. They're just not mainstream. Their story is not being told. And oftentimes, let's be honest, when another Black person tells us about how to make some money, we often think that it's a scam because someone is, it's out for us, So, just challenging that thought.
The ideal that African Americans are lazy or that we don't have a good work ethic. I think there's this perception that, we're here, we're in America, how are we not doing better for ourselves? So.
I thought I was going to be the only one staying. I was going to be like, I'm about to be like Kanye West. But okay, there's a lot of things we can use as an excuse to hold us back, to not to reach our potential. But it's up to us to look past that. Like me coming from Africa, I came here to better my life, my family. I'm the only one here. And since I have been here, there's a lot of bad things that happen to me. There's also a lot of good things that happen to me. Us African or African American, we need to look past racism and just focus on our own goal. What do we want to achieve? And we need to stop using the word racism when we don't get something or when something don't go our way, and just keep trying.
So let me jump in real quick. No disrespect, but racism exists, and I have to acknowledge it. And I can't just ignore it, but what I can do is not buy into the system. If I want to do something, let me be the entrepreneur. What I believe happened in the 1960s is that we started looking for equal rights, to be equal with other people. And what we stopped doing, and I heard you talk about Tulsa, we stopped using the Black-owned businesses. Now, because you guys got to understand, the Fair Housing Act in 1968, I'm 5 years old. That's when we could move off the east side of LA and move into other subcultures. So what I wanted to do at 8 years old was go to IHOP. I didn't want to go to the Ma and Pa restaurant anymore. I wanted to let's go eat at the hotels. So what we did is stop supporting each other and started supporting corporate America. So the racism plays a major part, but we don't have to buy into it.
I have been waiting to disagree with you, my brother.
Ooh, conformism. Conformism, the idea to buy into other people's culture because it's popular. You know, and I think with the effect of integration and the mondialization, we all, as African, losing our culture. You know, I grew up in an environment where you could be left alone with the neighbors and being taken care of and have food for a week, but now you can't. But
I'm waiting patiently. The thing is, even though I want to disagree with you, I get where you're coming from. When I see black people talking about racism, all that stuff, I'm like, what is wrong with these people? You guys have food, you have EBT, all this thing, and you're here shouting about somebody is racist too. Just leave that person and move on. I feel that way. Like, why are they always like complaining? But when Black Lives Matters started happening, like, I sat down, I said, I need to actually know why these people are pained. And if we look at the history, what they've done to them, like if you actually sit down, watch some documentaries, how they were maltreated, I don't think if I'm actually born, I will forgive those people. I don't care. It's easier for us Africans that were raised in Africa to feel like they're complaining because we were raised through struggle. Like I barely even have water, and you have water, you're complaining. But then it's not about the basic necessity or about how we are raised. We are raised like, I don't want to say way better. We might not have resources, but there are some way, like our own people will not look down on us or put us behind. So it's in their nurture that way. Like they just can't overlook it. And if you sit down and watch everything that the forefathers have been through for real, I changed my mind. No, they need to be angry. However, they should still move forward.
I mean, we have police brutality back home too.
Oh, I think on this point we all need to be angry though. We all need to be angry because somehow the sole reason why we as African, some of us have to come over here in these countries, leave our country to go and look for better opportunities elsewhere is because of the effect of colonialism that is still happening nowadays. You know, we have an educational system that is completely based on an external power, on an external country, and that doesn't apply to our level of development. That is completely false. So, and somehow we can find ways to detach to that. Look what is happening in Niger right now. So, yes, we all can be angry, but anger at this point, let's use that as fuel to do better, you know.
We have, like, if you go to Cameroon and then you see how the police officer treat us, and they're black just like us, you're not even gonna believe it, you know. And in Cameroon we have this. Have you guys heard of the word like tribalism? So
yeah, it happens in Nigeria.
So we do get oppressed too. And
I agree.
so when I'm saying like we need to like look past that, I'm not saying forget what happened to you guys or me. At the end of the day, we cannot just sit and just grieve on the past. We have to be able to move on, but not forget.
Let's use
if I could choose a place to live, it would obviously be my country. I love my country, but right now, my country is not the best choice for me. There's a little genocide going on in Cameroon right now. So many innocent lives have been taken. If I was still in my country, the opportunity that I have here, I would not have those opportunities there.
Hip hop reinforces stereotypes about the black community.
In South Africa, we have our own version of hip hop, so we call it Kwaito. So they would rap in our own language, in different, we call it Vernac. So back home, it kind of did reinforce some stereotypes because now when you go out in the world, people will just classify you under one group. And growing up, also looking at American entertainment, looking at the hip hop that's done here, I'm like, oh, well, you're rapping about drugs, you're rapping about this. Of course it's going to happen. Of course you're going to go to jail. But getting older, you see the culture as well of hip hop. I had to understand that there's a culture within that.
I was alive when hip hop started, and it was during a time where people rapped about what they saw. what they wanted in life. And then it became where people rapped about what they had been through, what they had gotten over, used to sell drugs, used to hurt people, but now this is who they are.
And if I'm correct with this, what he's saying, that when hip hop started, what it was used for, at the time, I don't think it was even authorized. A lot of these hip hop artists, because they were talking about the struggle and the things that they were seeing and living every day, it wasn't accepted by the mainstream media because of the simple reason that if the mainstream media had published or like streamed those type of content, it would get to other white people that could be like, hey, is that really true? Is that really what is going on? Because I would hope that among black people, there were some of them that were not at all, I would say, some of it, I mean, that were not, that did not know what was going on and could have been against what was happening in those communities. So, hey, don't quote me on that though. That's just what I think, because for me, the simple rule of divide and conquer still applies here. And when you see how hip hop has evolved into, the moment it was accepted into the mainstream, it started deviating. It started being like about other things than the struggle that was happening. It started about the issues. I mean, we can see what is going on nowadays with praising people like the mainstream artists are the artists that are just doing what they got to do. That's what I'm saying. We can see how that affect or that impact the masses, because we live in a world of social media and constant streaming and constant informations. The people that we have way more access to our artists now than we did back in the day. So it's like we follow them, we have to see what they're doing. So when they do when they rap about this thing, somehow I think that they feel the need to showcase what they're talking about. Don't quote me on that though.
And I think it's gotten into now, in our day and age now, it's where people are glorifying and wanting to pretend that these are the things that they do on a daily basis when it's not. So it went from storytelling to now really it's truly storytelling, but it's unhealthy for our culture.
I don't want to on my radio and all I'm hearing is, I put a bullet in something. Like, I'm like, that's what you would do? No, like, sorry. And then it's like, it's all about like, talking about female body type, the booty, the thing, like don't talk about my booty like that. So I don't want to listen to something that portray me as a female that way, or something that is talking about how you put bullets in my head. Like if you actually do not come to America and see for yourself, you will think that most African Americans are carrying guns around and they just shoot randomly, or they just grab your ass or something like that. That's the way the music portray them. And music is a very important element.
But this is not only in movies though. Granted, I mean, this is not only in movies, not only in music. Movies are full of those. Hollywood has done a good job at brainwashing the rest of the world about the African American. They've done a great job of brainwashing.
In our society, because it influenced a lot of people, both young and adult, and then they kind of see all those stuff and they act like that, even though that's not what they really want to be. They act like that and behave like that. Like if all these rappers are your role model, then you want to be like them. You want to be cool too. So in the end, it's about like the people that are packaging the music, and sometimes it's about trend. Is what people want to hear.
The American dream is only for white people.
I believe that the American dream is only for white people because it says equal. And when we talk about equal, there's no equality between the 1%, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Trumps, and the people who really run the media and things of that nature. So for black people growing up in America and living in America, we could become rich, we could become wealthy, but we are not on the equal playing field of white America. The system of white supremacy, which is in the law enforcement, which is in the judicial system, which is in the prison industrial association, also in the politics. We are not equal in any of those terms.
Okay, when he puts it this way, granted, all of these family have hands on the mass media, have hands on the main banking systems around the world. That means the dream is not even authorized at this point. If you think about it, the dream is not authorized, and and I'm not saying this just for African American or Black people or African people. I'm talking about in general. Even if you are of different race and you don't tap into that category or into that level of wealth or relationship, you are in deep water. Ooh-la.
When I was back there when you were speaking, I started thinking like, could we ever actually, as Black people, have the American dream here in America? And I don't know if we really can, I'm trying to be careful with my words, but I do think there needs to be a degree of separatism. Like Black people, we really need to have our own to fully take part in that dream.
This is their system.
Yeah.
Why would we dream of being equal in a system that wasn't designed for us?
The American dream, at least the way that I define it, is, freedom of opportunity, freedom to choose what I want to do, freedom to acquire wealth the same way that anybody else can. Obviously, we're fighting the tides of time on that and our circumstances, but it's hard because it's hard to honor that, but then also want more for myself. And I think that as Black people, we're always teeter-tottering on that line of like, well, am I American? Like, do I get the American dream, or do we just tear all this down and build something new? White people are not the only people entitled to the American dream
Divide the money.
ever. And I think that that's why we're all here, because our ancestors made it so that we can stand here and pursue that American dream.
I wouldn't have been here if it meant that it was not for everyone. I wouldn't have even entered America. I feel like not just African, but other people as well in different countries. And from what I have seen, I've seen other people, even Africans and African Americans, succeeding in their own way. And that's why I feel like you said, you can interpret the American dream in a different way.
She has a point. When it comes to the level of control that the older gentleman was talking about here, I think that he is right. But he's right to the extent of depending on what you define your dream as. Like, what do you dream of? For some people, the dream is to actually just get out of the country. That's why you have a lot of immigrants dying in the sea, trying to go to Europe, leaving Africa, because of this, like what the colonialism has said back home, because of the fact that whenever a leader is coming into power and is talking about bringing some changes, he's either killed or, overthrown. And we have to literally leave our country to come out here to find better ways, So the American dream can be defined at different levels. So I get what the lady is talking about.
Whatever industry or whatever it is that you're focusing on, because there is a level of opportunity there. There is some way that you can be successful. Talking about Trevor Noah, who took over The Daily Show, it wouldn't have been possible for him coming in as an African. He got his American dream. It made us as well, other Africans, believe that it is possible.
The American dream writes his check. So he gets to have wealth or whatever it is that he's experiencing, but the American dream is the one who writes his check, not him.
Here is the American dream, write his check, is coming from a point of the system made in, like the system that is built in place right now does not allow you as an individual to reach a certain level of wealth. And I think that in order for us to get back, to get to that level where we can actually retain that control, we have to work as a community and start consuming Black. We have to regroup and redefine our value as a community, redefine those rules of living, like get together and decide of where we spending our money. That is how we can reclaim our power, I think. So writing the check, yes, if the American dream as of now writes the check and you use that check to build the black dream, then let's do it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But do you see how we would put it as he had his American dream, even though someone writes his check? But for him, or for some of us looking at it on the other side, that's his American dream, because his goal was to get there. The biggest cultural shock I saw coming here was definitely the lifestyle, because the lifestyle I saw of America, especially Los Angeles, was portrayed as a very rich lifestyle. And of course, I came here as a student. Being here, I saw that there was a huge divide, or there is still a huge divide within the African American community themselves.
If he had stayed in South Africa, would he have had the same opportunity that he had here?
No.
No.
Like, you know, so corporate is writing his check, but like us growing up, the reason we move here is because we don't have it better back home. Like me, like for me, I'm the first person ever in my family in America. Everybody else is back home. Everybody is depending on me. Like, all of them, my mom, she's dying to come here. Like, she's willing to do anything just for her to be in America. So for me, when I look at those like little things, I'm like, yeah, American dream is for everybody, you know? Like, yeah, we might not have the same opportunity as the white people, but there's still that little chance that a lot of us back home are willing to take just to get here.
I trust law enforcement.
Another thing to say.
All right, can the disagreeer step forward?
No one came forward. Damn, across the board.
I got married.
I don't think law enforcement is well viewed anywhere in the world at this point. I don't know if there's a country where law enforcement seems as the protector of the normal population, if I may say. Because even back home in Cameroon is a problem. They act funny sometimes.
To a young lady who did 15 years in prison for a robbery she didn't commit. I myself was incarcerated for 6 months for a burglary that I couldn't have committed because I was in prison. So in 1987,
Whoa. Imagine being incarcerated for... Yo, can I ever say that? Like, yo. You get accused for a crime that you couldn't have committed because you were already in jail for another crime. That is...
I'm doing
This is
19 months in
unbelievable.
prison. When I came home in 1988, I was given a burglary charge and I had to sit 6 months. And the judge did not kick it out because there's no way I could have done it. He kicked it out because they didn't serve me the warrant while I was in prison. So I don't trust them.
Coming home to a burglary charge.
They lie and they do things and it affects our people. So many people I know who have been wrongfully arrested, wrongfully convicted, and they